Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Welcome to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford and I'm your host. I'm an Australian woman and I've been living in Hong Kong for many years. I'm a mother, a teacher, an author, and I want to share my wisdom and the wisdom of others with you. Thanks for joining me and I hope you enjoy the show.
You meet someone online and there's this instant connection. It's amazing how much the two of you just seem to click. They live somewhere far away and there's some plausible reason they can't travel to meet you. They tell you they're in love with you and you feel optimistic for the first time in a long time. They have a successful career, yet somehow they need money from you to solve a short-term problem, always with the promise of paying you back. Time goes on and they need more money more urgently. You've started to see the cracks and begin to wonder whether they've been lying this whole time. All of a sudden it hits you. You've been scammed. Fool Me Twice is the story of my mother, Jules Hannaford, a woman who was drawn into the dangerous world of sweetheart scams. After a trip overseas to meet a stranger, a dangerous altercation in a Manchester hotel room, and thousands of pounds lost for good, she's here to tell her story. Fool Me Twice, a true crime podcast, is available on Apple Podcasts, Ozcast Network, and anywhere you listen to your podcasts.
Today I'm here with Amy Overy. How are you, Amy? Nice to meet you and thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Amy, how long have you lived in Hong Kong?
I've been in Hong Kong for 11 years. This is my 11th year.
Tell me about Hong Kong Greeters and how this came about and how you started this organisation.
Well, initially I came to Hong Kong with my husband. He was the one who had work here. And so I was that lovingly termed individual, the trailing spouse, which I still hate. And I didn't have work, but started working in a sort of as a trainer, business corporate trainer, which is something I did back in the UK. And then after having my firstborn, my son, I knew I didn't want to go back to that. And I'd had this idea for ages and ages about just showing people around Hong Kong. And my concept really was, which hasn't changed very much, was being somebody's friend in the city. Because when we travelled and when we'd have people come and visit us, you know, I really felt like the best memories when you were with someone that you knew and knew the place really, really well. And so I went for it. And I went down to the Inland Revenue, got my business registration and put something up on TripAdvisor. And then I started getting bookings.
Do you see yourself as a tour guide or are you just somebody to show people have experiences in Hong Kong, or is it all of that?
Well, I would say it's all of that. I think initially I started out, our concept is your friend in Hong Kong, but doing this for so long, I've done it since 2012. So 8 years. I mean, there's so much to share about Hong Kong that I know. I actually kind of have to rein it in a little bit. If I start seeing like the eyes glaze over, I'm like, okay, they're only here for a day. They don't really need to know the geopolitical history of a whole 300 years ago. But anyway, I try and sort of tailor it to what I'm picking up from the customer and what I think that they might be interested in. I would call it an experience, although I guess, you know, on paper, we're a private tour company. We just ultimately want people to get the best out of Hong Kong when they're here and feel like they've sort of left knowing the city and having a great time.
What are some of the services or the tours that you offer? What are some of your highlights?
We do a whole range of things, actually. If you looked at our website, you'd be like, wow, there's a lot of stuff on here.
I did look. It's amazing. It looks fantastic.
I would say our core offering is like a private walking tour. A private tour, you book us from anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. It might be using public transport. It might be in a private car. And then we have like themes or inspirations. So you can sort of tag those on and we can start including them into the itinerary. So we tend to get a lot of people who are Jewish and they want to tag in the Jewish history that we have in Hong Kong. I mean, it's not a huge amount, but it's quite significant. So it's quite nice to try and weave that into the tour. Vegetarian tours as well, we do. We did one on Friday, actually, with a local group. And actually, a lot of the time people come back because they just want really good food. And there's lots of really good food in Hong Kong. But the struggle I think people find is knowing where to go and to get the really good stuff, because menus here tend to be meat heavy, don't they? They're, which is fine, it's fair enough, but there are some little places that are really great for vegetarians as well.
Tell me a little bit about the Jewish history in Hong Kong. I didn't know nothing about it. I have to ask about that.
So the Jewish history, so some of the earliest settlers in Hong Kong, once British colonised it, were coming via the trade routes in India, bringing in the opium. Okay, so the Kadoris, for example, have a long history of that. But since then, obviously, been very philanthropic, trying to give back to Hong Kong. But yeah, their roots are in the opium trade coming in via India and Persia. And the synagogue was built by the Sassoon family. And all these names you hear, but you wouldn't necessarily pin it to that point in time. My favourite character is, he was the manager of HSBC Belilios, and there's a school named after him as well. But he evidently was quite a chap. He used to walk down from the peak where its house was on a camel.
What?
Yeah.
A camel in Hong Kong?
Yeah. No horses, a camel he took. So, yeah.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's so interesting. See, I've learned something new from you already. Do you have a favourite tour that you love doing the most?
Yeah, I do. So it's one, because obviously there's no visitors coming from overseas at the moment in Hong Kong. So we've sort of curated some local tours that we hope local people will also like to come and join. And we've done it by basically picking our favourite places in the city. So my favourite place in Hong Kong is Tai O, down on Lantau.
It's beautiful, isn't it? I love that place. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it's just a world away, isn't it? If you're used to Hong Kong and the hustle and bustle, you really feel like you're in a different place completely there. We did another one of those at the weekend, and there's this little cafe that's on the creek. And yeah, my guests, they were like, can we not just stay here the whole day? They're just really enjoying it. Just so peaceful. It was lovely.
It's beautiful out there. Did you see that a restaurant there was featured on the Restaurants on the Edge on Netflix?
I did. I watched it. My good friend Virginia's on it.
Yeah, I love Virginia. She's great. She runs tours as well, but she's been on my podcast, and then I got her back on to talk about that experience.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, she came across really well. I really loved it. She was in Sham Shui Po, which is another area which is brilliant.
Yeah, doing the street food. Yeah, she's now like a Hong Kong street food expert, thanks to Netflix. And her wonderful knowledge as well. And what's your most popular tour before COVID hit? What would people or the tourists from overseas be most interested in?
Well, usually because it was very time limiting, they'd want to see the highlights of Hong Kong. So we do this tour called Peak to Piers. It's essentially an overview of Hong Kong and Kowloon in one day. I mean, our tours aren't short, we're minimum 6 hours, but usually 8 hours. So we're with people for the whole day. And we just give them a real slice of what it's like to be here. So obviously we do the Peak. I'm talking to you and you've got a lovely picture of the harbour.
Yeah, behind me. Yeah, on Zoom. We love Zoom.
So of course, we take people to go and see this wonderful view, and hopefully we have blue sky days like we have been having, and it just blows their mind, because Hong Kong's, you know it's a dense city, but just see it with your own eyes and see how many high rises there are. It is something to behold. So we always try and do that. We do the classics like the Star Ferry and the tram as well, but then we'll try and do a more local neighbourhood. So it could be Sham Shui Po, actually. That's one of my favourites. I really like Wan Chai as well, like going through the market streets. And even things like how people buy groceries here is very different. So it's always really nice to sort of point out, oh, look, there's an oxtail hanging there. Or do you know what this fruit is? It's mangosteen. Have you ever tried it? That sort of thing. And then we try and touch on the religion a little bit as well. So I really enjoy taking people into the temples, and particularly the Taoist temples. They're always so welcoming, and just helping people to sort of understand how that has helped sort of adapt, or people have drawn from that, and how we are today and why people do certain things. And a lot of it ties back to the religion. So
I absolutely love that temple.
It's in Kowloon side. I forget. It starts with a W where it is, but you can get palm readings and everything. What's it called?
Wong Tai Sin.
Wong Tai Sin. Yeah, I wanted to say Wu Kwai Sha, but it's like, no, that's a great campground up in the New Territories. Yeah, Wong Tai Sin Temple. Love going there for a little palm reading and then the sticks and stuff.
It is absolutely fantastic. And I think they know me by name there, actually, because it's one of my favourites as well. Yeah, if anyone is looking to do something over the summer, like go and visit Wong Tai Sin and join in and try and get your palm read, your face read. It's just a great experience all in itself, you know. It
is a fantastic experience. I've still got my little palm readings from years ago, you know, like you're going to meet somebody. It's like, well, that doesn't work. That's right. 15 years ago, yeah. I must get out more.
There's a lady down there. She's called Jenny Wong, and she's the one who helped me name my children in Chinese because...
Is she the English-speaking woman who does the palm reading?
It's probably the one you're thinking of.
Yeah, because there's only one.
Yeah.
There's one guy and one woman that speak English. And
so she's great. She helped me because both my kids go to bilingual school, and rather than them just have an English name, they wanted a Chinese name like all their friends as well. So she helped me to get their name based on their birth date and their zodiac sign.
Oh, that's super cool. Can you tell me their names?
Okay, so in Cantonese, my son is Oh Man Wai, and my daughter is Oh Hei Yi.
Oh, so, fantastic.
I always like the surname.
Yes, so cool. Amy, tell me a bit about how COVID-19 has impacted your business. Now we'll get the tissues out for the sad part. So you can just say disaster and then we can move on. But it'd be interesting to really understand at a sort of grassroots level how it's impacted your business.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it all sort of happened very quickly, didn't it? In January, we sort of heard this rumour of something happening over in China and we didn't quite know what. And then after Chinese New Year, obviously everything shut down. We were actually still receiving visitors. We were still taking people out and about up until the 5th of February. And so it completely stopped. I don't know, do you remember the Diamond Princess cruise that got quarantined in Japan? Well, we had 15 customers in Hong Kong off that boat.
Were you scared?
I was a bit nervous, and I did contact one of the local surgeries to see if I could get a test. But actually, you know, after the time that had lapsed and by the time that I got it, I was pretty certain that I never had it. So I didn't go and get it.
So they were here before they got quarantined in Japan and all the cases hit. And there were quite a number of deaths on that boat, weren't there?
It was around 400 in the end. Yes, that's
crazy. So yes, that must have made you very nervous for a while.
It was. And I kept in contact with these customers as well. And oh my goodness, like, can you imagine just being stuck in this place and not being able to even onto your balcony? And yeah, again, I mean, it's people just didn't know what to do at that point. And so the best thing to do was just stop them from getting out. I felt really bad for them.
How long were they stuck on the boat for, do you know?
Well, the customers I had were from the US, so they had to do 2 weeks on the boat and were constantly being checked. Then they got flown back by a military plane. They were literally like in one of those ones where there's no real seats, like they were kind of strapped in.
Oh my God.
And then they had to do 2 more weeks in the US as well. So all in all, they were under quarantine for 4 weeks. But they were happy when they were back in the US because they could order in KFC, they said.
Americans and their diet. So they obviously didn't do your vegetarian tour.
They didn't. In fact, they did Peking duck when they were here.
Yeah. And then on the February the 5th, was that it? Like tours done? Did you do anything virtual? Did you have to adapt or change your business in any way? Or was it just like, okay, we've got to fall back and regroup and just wait?
It was more that. And I think because like everybody, it was like, what is going on? Like no one really could know or predict or anything. I've got 2 kids, as I mentioned, and they were both in school. So my priorities had to switch over to them for the schooling, for the midterm.
Do you mean because they were then in home learning?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I had to take that role.
How was that, moving from a tour guide and businesswoman into school teacher of your kids?
Oh, God. Well, like any parent, I now have a completely renewed respect for teachers.
Yeah. That's what most of the parents I've met have said, because I'm a school teacher. I'm a teacher in a high school. They're like, oh my God, you guys are amazing. I don't know how you do it.
Oh my goodness. It was tough. And, you know, I don't think there was a day we actually got through all the stuff that we were supposed to get through. So we prioritised on what we thought was most important. But you know what? Kids are great. Yes, we had some head butting in the beginning, but by the end of it, my son was like, "When I go back to school, I can get everything I need to do done by lunch." Why?
Obviously doesn't really care about hanging out with his mates or whatever.
I don't know. He just was seeing it as being able to play more PlayStation in the afternoon.
So when did you kind of start back, or have you started back since COVID? Because the laws just changed in Hong Kong about a week ago, didn't they? Friday, like about 10 days ago.
That's right.
So, yeah.
So went up from groups of 8, and now for tours, you can do up to 50.
Oh, right. So were you taking tours of 8 when you could for a while, or?
For a little bit. So it was only listening to another podcast, actually, the Tourpreneur podcast. And lots of people were talking about, you know, doing online stuff, food tours, actually, being very creative and doing deliveries to people, like getting the restaurants involved too, like doing care packages and things like that. So that's very clever.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were talking about switching to local tours. I did think, do you know what, there is something we could do. So like most things I do, I don't put too much thought into it. I just go with it, see what happens. And so I think I started just on Facebook putting up some events at the beginning of June. We got bookings for the first weekend. So we've been booked every weekend since. So,
and this is with locals?
Just with locals, yeah. And you know, there's a lot of people out in Hong Kong who arrived last year, and because of the protests from June last year, and now because of COVID, they just haven't seen any of Hong Kong, and they can't go anywhere now. So they're like, oh, this is great you're doing this.
And also, I guess people are starting now to feel like they can get out and do stuff. And a tour is a great way to see Hong Kong, be outside, feel a bit safer because you're not really squashed in a nightclub with like 100 people, or 50 at the moment. I think that I can see why that would be popular. And then did this also lead for you to think about starting your holiday at home program?
Yes, that's exactly the reason. The Hong Kong Tourism Board also have the same slogan. So I kind of adopted theirs.
Stole, you mean.
Well, we do have something up with them for their program. That we've got our vegetarian tour running with them. But I think in terms of the other stuff that we suggested offering with the tourism board, they didn't think the price was affordable enough, which is, I think, is a bit weird because the market dictates what the price is. But hey, so a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do and also promote with them, I was like, oh, I'll just do it on my own then. I'll just, and I don't think there's people out there who obviously think it is good value and they're booking. So
brilliant. So tell me a bit more about your holiday at home program. What does that look like?
It was actually, I think we've got 5 different options, but 3 are proving really, really popular. So the reason I have a sunburnt face today is because I did the Aberdeen tour yesterday. We do quite a short walk around the old Aberdeen town. It is quite small, about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then the final hour, we go out on a Zoom rig. It's
what is that?
a Zodiac, I think is also known as. It's a small boat that can go really, really fast.
Okay.
They use them a lot for lifeboats because they can cut through the waves and you don't get wet. But it's sort of designed for the spray to go away from the boat. And it's got these really cool seats. They're called jockey seats. So you sit on them like you're riding a horse. So it's got that feel of almost a roller coaster ride, but you're on a boat. And we continue the tour out from Aberdeen and we go over to Waterfall Bay, Repulse Bay and Stanley as well. And the last couple of times that we've done it, we've actually returned people to either Stanley or Repulse Bay so they can go have some lunch afterwards as well. Yeah, it's really good fun. You should come, Jules.
Yeah, it sounds great. I love Aberdeen too. I think it's so very Hong Kong, isn't it? It's very, very beautiful. And then what are your other 2 tours that you're offering for the holidays at home? Sorry.
We're doing Tai O Explore More. So I mentioned earlier, I love that place. We spend actually 6 to 7 hours there. Can you believe it? But that's a
I can.
by foot, walking around the village and just going more in depth. I think, than you normally would. Trying some of the local snacks, sort of explaining, understanding the people there and what they do. And then we go for a lunch in a vegetarian restaurant. It's called vegetarian, but it's like Chinese vegetarian because their most popular dish is a salty chicken, and it's real chicken. But so they do both things. So if you're vegetarian and you're with non-vegetarians, it's perfect. And then from there, we walk out to another bay, which is just around the peninsula. It only takes about 30 minutes. And there's this wonderful hidden infinity pool and waterfall. Actually, you can go swimming. So a couple of people.
Oh my God, I want to find that. That sounds amazing. And then your third tour?
Third tour is to Cheung Chau. So we called that one the Cheung Chau Family Adventure, because there's quite a lot of active stuff you can do on Cheung Chau. And the guide that runs that for us, our guide Stephen, he grew up there. So he's got a lot of local insight, but he's also really keen on his cycling. So you can cycle around Cheung Chau. With the travel time, taking the boat over as well, it's about 4 hours. So it's not too strenuous at all. And Cheung Chau, where we go, is pretty flat. So you can do it. And, we can take the kids through the pirate cave, and you can just go and jump in the sea once we're done as well, which is really
perfect way to finish the tour. That's awesome. Do you reckon that COVID's changed the way that you think and inspired you to think outside the box with your work? Like, will you be walking around with a GoPro on your head, like recording your tours from now on, just in case there's another wave, and then you can put your tours online and charge for them online? You're welcome to adopt that idea if you hadn't thought of it yet.
Great idea. Thanks, Jules. Yeah. I feel like even since the protest last year, I can't think more than like 1-2 weeks ahead, because things just seem to change so quickly. So I feel like I just have to deal with it day to day and in the moment and see what happens. I mean, I thought did cross my mind, after the summer when kids are back at school, supposedly tourists are supposed to be coming back in September. But again, I have no idea what that market's going to look like when they start coming back again. And of course, we're going to have to be much more vigilant, have the health declarations, have the masks, have the sanitizer. There could be a point where we actually refuse people due to health reasons. And I can see it in the future.
Yeah. You'll worry about that after summer. Yeah. I think you've got till September, October at least. But at least you are obviously thinking about it, and you are going to have to change the way that you operate in a certain way because of what's going on, like the rest of the world has to. Exactly. Even with teaching. Like, I'm wondering how long we'll be teaching in masks for. It might be a long, long time. How did you actually come up with the idea of Hong Kong Greeters? Like, was something that you just thought, I want to do something different and this is an opportunity because it's something that I love? Or did somebody make the suggestion? Did it fall in your lap by accident?
No, I think it was because when I first came to Hong Kong and I was trying to find out more information, there just didn't seem to be a lot of resources out there. And I mean, you could do a bus tour, and there's quite a few like guidebooks and stuff. But again, the level of those sort of things was very broad. It wasn't very deep. So I thought, you know what, there should be something like this here. And I actually did an appallingly little amount of research into what was available and what I was offering. I didn't even know it was called a private tour, Jules. It was just something I thought, oh, maybe this will work. Yeah. I then found out that there were around 4 other people doing it. That was it. And for a market which is as big as Hong Kong, it's ridiculously small. We're on the par with New York and Sydney, for example, but there were only like these 4 people. But I actually became incredibly good friends with them all. And as the years gone on and more people have joined in the business, we sort of all keep in touch. We've got like a WhatsApp group and we share. That's how come I know Virginia. We all share things and we talk about, what's going on. And during the protest, it was like, well, where are you going today? Is it safe there? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then more recently, it's a lot about what government funding is available, for travel agencies and things that can help us out in the short term. That's really what it was. It was just stumbling across a gap in the market. I was very lucky, I guess.
And that's a huge gap. I mean, if you think about New York or Sydney, they must have hundreds of tour operators, hundreds and hundreds, like maybe even thousands. For you to only have 4, it's like you landed in a really good opportunity.
I did.
Brilliant.
Not realising.
And, with your tours, do you ever offer, this might be another idea that you're very welcome to adopt, Do you ever offer staycation opportunities, like create something where there's a staycation involved as well? Jot that down,
I
Amy. Jot it down.
do, because actually I have to do what I do. I have to have a travel agent's license. So that means I could book flights, I could book hotels and transport and things, as well as doing the guided tours.
Even so, like after the kids have gone out to play, you should plan some staycation opportunities for people in Hong Kong. Because when they're on the summer, like you've got these holidays at home, which are great, but they're just a day thing. But if you had 2 or 3 day opportunities where people could stay somewhere and then go out and do different things over a few days, send a tour guide with them for the few days, that'd be an absolute winner. And then you can practice on the locals. And then when the international people come in, you've got a new concept set up, which I bet you isn't really offered in Hong Kong at the moment.
No, I don't think it is.
Joel, there you go.
Can you be my marketing manager?
Yes, I'm going to be your coach.
I love it.
That's actually a fantastic idea, isn't it? It really is. Like, get in touch with some of those glamping mobs, that have all the glamping tents, and hook up with them. And yeah, it could be amazing.
Get it down.
Yeah, really good. It's a bloody brilliant idea. I just thought of it myself. That's what I think you should do, because then you would have it all set for when the international people come, and then you make so much more money. Charge the locals a certain price, charge the people overseas more. So do you showcase particular aspects of Chinese culture in your tour?
Yeah, I'll always try to. The religion for sure, the way different religions play a part in how people are living in China. I always sort of say Buddhism is like your spiritual path, the moral code, and Taoism is like the most laid back one, but also quite pragmatic and also allows you to sort of try and test your luck or bend your luck in your favor. And then you've got the Confucianism, which is basically the order of society here. So I think a lot of people don't even think about it. They've come from so far away and something so very different. So it's nice to shine a lens on it. And then, of course, the food is a huge part of Chinese culture. And a lot of that, has humble beginnings. And you can talk about, on our vegetarian tour, it's always about people trying to make the most of what they've got. And a lot of the time, people just couldn't afford meat. It was just too expensive. So a lot of these vegetarian dishes have been born of people who just don't have money. So, yeah, I think I am full, what do you call someone who's a sinophobe? No, sinophile. Sorry, not a sinophobe. My husband always jokes I'm a true honky, and I even try and learn the language, but it's one of those things, isn't it? You try for a year or so, and then you're like, everyone speaks pretty good English.
Yeah, sometimes you only need it in a taxi. You just need to know, turn left, turn right, stop here, and you're fine.
Well, I do persist. I've been persisting for so long, but I'm never going to be tonally correct with everything that I do, but I try, and it usually comes across well, So anyway.
And do you offer any kind of special packages, like weddings or birthdays or events or anything like that in what you do?
Yeah,
another idea for you if you want.
We did this wonderful wedding tour a couple of years back now, but the bride and groom met in Hong Kong. And you know how Instagram is so super popular, and there's all these iconic places in Hong Kong, like the public housing estates. That's basically what we did. We took them to have their wedding photos at these iconic public housing estates. So we went over to the one in Choi Hong, and we did the one in Shek Kip Mei. And then we intertwined that with a walking tour of the area as well, and got them eating snake soup. And
how cool.
And I think it's because, obviously, traditionally you can have quite a few ceremonies. And so I think this was between the morning ceremony and then the evening dinner. And so they wanted to fill the gap for their guests. So this was a treat for everybody.
Oh, that sounds like such a great idea.
Really good fun.
So do you do kind of tailor-made stuff? Like if somebody rang you and said, I've got this or this on and this is what I want, would you create it, or can they only sort of choose from what you've got?
Most of all our stuff is tailored, yeah. So people sort of get in touch and they say, well, I do want to do this, but I don't want to do that. And we say, absolutely no problem. I wouldn't go as far as saying no itinerary is the same, but we definitely tap into what that customer wants.
See, that's so cool. That's got to be good for building your business, doesn't it? The fact that you will be that flexible.
The flexibility is key with us. and the experience as well of our guides. Obviously, we've all been doing this quite a long time, so we can really do it on the fly as well. The trouble we have, though, is scaling the business. Because we're so passionate about making it about the customer, you can't really replicate that very well. You know, if I say I wanted to go and open a business overseas, you know, it's actually a lot of time and effort.
I really think my staycation idea is how you're going to scale your business.
It's a great idea. I love it.
Yeah, it is a really great idea, especially for the next 4 months. Do you find it difficult to get your vendors or to get certain restaurants or iconic landmarks on board?
I think I'm lucky. I'm not Chinese. I know people can't see me, but I'm a...
Yeah, you sound a bit British. It's fine.
Brit. Yeah. So when I've been to these places so regularly, they recognise me, they know me, and they know I'm a tour guide, and they're usually really, really helpful and open to interacting with our guests. They're really happy to do it. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm bringing them business, right? So I don't do it on commission or anything like that. I'm doing it because I like the place that I'm taking people to. So they're always more than happy.
And people in Hong Kong are generally very friendly and welcoming, aren't they? So it's really part of the culture, isn't it? It's very nice. Yeah.
They're lovely.
Have you had any feedback from your guests? Like, do you get forms filled out, or do people rate you on TripAdvisor or anything like that? And what sort of feedback do you get?
Yeah. In the past, it's all been about TripAdvisor because that's where most people find out about us. The moment, sort of part of the downtime, really, I've been thinking more about how to gain it in other directions. And it seems like TripAdvisor is becoming more and more difficult for people to find things on. It's sort of been overloaded with so many different types of things, and the categories are all a mess. And that was quite obvious in terms of the number of bookings that had reduced from them. You know, our ratings are very good on there, but just harder and harder to find us. So I've been thinking about moving more towards Google reviews and also Facebook as well. And Facebook's been, for the local tours, Facebook's been the winner for sure. So
that's interesting. Yeah. Stuff is moving on to social media, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what sort of things do they say? What are the people that go on your tours love the most, do you think?
A lot of them say things like, I feel like I found a new friend, actually.
Oh, see, that's great. I'm feeling the same way, just chatting to you now.
It's really lovely. And, you know, so many people have checked as well to check that we're all okay, and which is so sweet. And it's not a business that you necessarily get repeat customers from, but they might then ask, they might get in touch in other times saying, you know, I'd really like to find a guide like you in Vietnam or in Thailand or somewhere like that. So I'm fortunate enough to have sort of travelled around Hong Kong, out of Hong Kong extensively, and I do tours when I go overseas. So I'm more than happy to sort of recommend these people as well who've also become my friends. But yeah, I love this job. I hope it comes across that I love this job.
Yeah, it does. It does, actually. It really does. Yeah. So that's great. And I think really success is about the relationships you form. And if you're spending 6 or 8 hours with somebody, you can really get to know them in that time and make that connection, can't you? If you're open and friendly and positive and sharing and all of that. So that's so cool.
I do think I'm lucky though, because, you know, most people are coming on holiday, so they're already in a
positive frame of mind. Yeah. Do you think that your business is sustainable if international travel is delayed over a number of months?
I think we'd be okay. But
because the local tours, you can build on that, and this staycation idea that I've given you, actually, it could really.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it could.
Yeah, I think we could definitely continue that. I don't know. Our whole business was geared towards overseas travellers, so it has been a shift. And what we know is that, but I've surprised myself in we've been able to sort of pivot and sort of carry on. So.
Do you know, I think the thing is, it's so interesting. Like, I've been here 20 years and there's so many places I haven't seen and things that I haven't done that I think your tours can be appealing to locals, because we're often so busy that we just stay in our own little bubbles and we don't sort of get out and appreciate necessarily what's out there. And it is nice to have someone do it for you. Like, go, okay, I want a day out. Can you tell me what I should do and take me there? Rather than you having to plot and plan it all. So it's a great idea, I think. And hopefully local interest will sustain it for as long as it needs. Why do you think people should consider this holiday at home option for the summer vacation in Hong Kong?
It's like you said, I think there's usually so many competing priorities in life. And it's particularly if you've got kids as well, often they're doing camps or sports activity. When do people make the time to do these things? It's always like a nice to have, not like a must have. So now that we've got this whole summer stretching out ahead of us, why not fit it in with some of these things to do? And honestly, it is so much better going. It's nice anyway, just to get out and about. But if you're there with someone who can just tell you a little bit more insight about it as well, I just think it just elevates it that little bit more.
The holidays have started. Like, do you have bookings? Is it looking like this concept is popular? I'm sure that there are many people in Hong Kong after the protests and COVID that they're looking for some fun and opportunities, and we're all stuck here this summer. Usually people travel and we're not.
So lots of people, I just started doing them on weekends in June because the kids still being in school. So, by the way, it's not just for families, like it's open to everyone, but we tried to pick stuff that we thought just would be really fun as well. And so it has been a lot of families but we're hoping to open up some more dates midweek for people during July and August as well. So it's not just fixed on the Saturday and Sunday. And the result has been when people have heard about them and they want to do it on a different day, they've sort of grouped their own 8 or 9 people together and then said, can we do it on a Tuesday or a Thursday? And that's absolutely no problem. We can do that. Yeah. In fact, weekdays would be much easier. But yeah, I think we'll just do a few more. We'll trickle through a few more in July and August. And I'd like to think of some more really fun stuff to do as well. So I need to get my thinking cap on, because all of the people that I've seen on these trips have sort of said, oh, have you got any more? Have you got any more?
Yeah. So I think like a couple of my friends with kids were trying to book like sailing club or different activities for their kids, and everything was full. They were just like, oh my God, I can't get my kids into any of these clubs or activities because nobody's going anywhere. And everybody is like, what are we going to do with the kids? So yeah, you should just think about cool things for kids around Hong Kong and come up with a kid tour.
Yeah.
A kid fun day. Yeah, you should let the parents drop them off and just take the kids. There's another idea you can have for free. Yeah. Market it as in Parents' Day Off and
I don't think I want to do it though.
I know. Hey, I know someone that could do it for you. He's amazing. He'd be amazing. Yeah.
Oh, let me know. Yeah, let me know.
Yeah. He'd be absolutely brilliant with the kids. Yeah, you need a couple of primary school teachers who want to earn a bit of extra buck. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. So, is there anything else that I haven't sort of asked you, or anything else that you'd like to mention before we finish up? It's been such an interesting chat, and I think it sounds like such a great business and a great opportunity for people in Hong Kong.
Well, just, if anyone wants to get in touch and even if they have ideas of these other places we could go, I'd love to be able to provide it for people and put it out there for them.
Brilliant. How can people find you?
So our website is www.hkgreeters.com, or you can email me directly on amy@hkgreeters.com.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Amy. It's been amazing talking to you. I've really enjoyed myself, actually.
Me too.
Thanks so much for chatting to me. And if my listeners could go to iTunes to rate and review us, then that would be amazing. And that would help my podcast go up the Apple podcast charts, and it would help more listeners in Hong Kong hear about Amy's business, Hong Kong Greeters, because actually my largest audience is people in Hong Kong, which is very cool.
Fantastic.
And yeah, thank you all for listening. You're wonderful. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask Amy 4 secret questions, which is going to go onto my Patreon account. So for my patrons on Patreon, they, for as little as $1 a month, they can listen to Amy's answers to the 4 secret questions, and also about my last 30 guests and their answers to the secret questions. So in a moment, we're going to head over to Patreon and do that, Amy. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been absolutely amazing and I've loved it. And I don't want any commission on any of my...
I'm going to recruit you.
Yeah.
Hi, Confidants. I want to tell you about my Patreon page. I've joined Patreon in the hope of getting sponsorship for my Hong Kong Confidential podcast. Patreon is a great way for my listeners to get on board and sponsor me with monthly payments, and that goes towards my production costs and rewards for my members. If you're interested in checking out my Patreon page, please go to patreon.com and search up Jules Hannaford or Hong Kong Confidential. I would really appreciate you visiting my page. So that brings us to the end of another Hong Kong Confidential podcast. I'm Jules Hannaford. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me again next week. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please can you go to iTunes to rate and review it. I would really appreciate your feedback. You can email me at jules@hongkongconfidential.net, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Hong Kong Confidential. If you'd like to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jules Hannaford. I would love to hear from you.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.